Hare Krishna. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki Jai. Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki Jai. Shri Gauranitai ki Jai. Sri Caitanya Caritamrta ki Jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Nitai Gaur Pramanande. Hari Hari Bo. Jai Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki Hare Krishna. You can ask now, Prabhu.
Expounding the natural principles of sannyasa life. So what was he trying to demonstrate? What was he trying to like sometimes, respecting because his guru's godbrother or
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's position is twofold, if you see. One is, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, Swayam Bhagavan. But at the same time, he is Mahaprabhu. Like Prabhupada says, in a moment everyone is Prabhu, but we have Supreme Prabhu. He is Mahaprabhu. There is one Mahaprabhu. We still call each other Prabhu. We are all servant Prabhus, like the Prabhupada says. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the Supreme Acharya, he is demonstrating, as Sannyas Shiromani, he is demonstrating what are the rules and regulations which a sannyasi is supposed to follow. But at the same time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also has a responsibility towards all his devotees as the Supreme Lord himself. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, sometimes to teach everyone, he was demonstrating how a sannyasi is supposed to follow. However, Supreme Lord doesn't have to go through sannyas ashram, because generally if you see of the four social and spiritual orders, Varna and Ashrama, Sannyas Ashram is considered to be the topmost. Prabhupada says, in Mayavada school, unless somebody becomes a sannyasi, they can never attain perfection. So it's like a mandate everyone has to go through. So here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually doesn't have to go through. Why should a jiva has to go through that? According to Mayavada school is, that's the only way how one can get purified. Total renunciation, like that. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has got nothing to prove to anyone. So him taking even sannyas ashram is simply to demonstrate, for preaching purpose he is doing. But at the same time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also Supreme Personality of Godhead. So even though he doesn't demonstrate his position as Supreme Lord publicly, what to speak of publicly, even among devotees, most of the time, sometimes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did do, like Mahaprakash Leela, we come across. Or Siddha Bakula, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes and embraces, you will come across. Or you will come across instance where Mahaprabhu in Amgata, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sowed a mango seed and then a big tree came. So you'll come across instances where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did demonstrate. And so many instances even during Harinam, simply by smiling, he changes a whole group of drunkards to become pure Vaishnavas. So much so in their ecstasy, they crushed the whole liquor house. And all Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to do to bring that symptom is just look at them and smile. One smile, finish everything. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he demonstrated his position both as the Supreme Acharya, Supreme Devotee, as well as the Supreme Lord. So he is still mentioning to, or he is still demonstrating that he is not under the control of anyone. So to do that, he is rejecting it. Rejecting whatever Ramachandra Puri is criticizing. But here more so because it is actually hurting the devotees very much. Because the devotees are not able to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu nicely. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is being totally prema vashyata, it's given, of all the qualities. Krishna is totally in control of everything, but he is in control of his devotees. So he is still simply to please the devotees, he is just rejecting. Because if he has to follow it so strictly, then nobody will be able to serve him. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can be much more stricter than what he was. So he is doing both.
And did you actually say yesterday Ramananda Raya and Swarupa are Lalita and Vishaka?
Ramananda Raya is Vishaka and Arjuna together. Generally it is said Vishaka. And and Swarup Damodar is Lalita Sakhi.
And Bhavananda Raya is five sons of Pandu.
Pandavas. Bhavananda Raya is Pandu.
Yesterday you were actually referring to one of the earlier shlokas in 9th chapter. Demons and serpentines, living entities, and the denizens from the 7 higher and 7 lower planetary systems, they came in a guise of humans. Does it mean that even the nether regions citizens have got access to come to the earthly planet?
Yeah.
Or is it only for great personality like Bali Maharaj?
They can come.
They can come.
Denizens of lower planetary systems. Actually, today I was reading Lord Shiva demolishing the 3 residences that were created by Mayadanava. And they are called Tripura. And because he vanquished all the demons and he burnt all the 3 residences into ashes, he came to be known as Tripurari. Ari means one who vanquishes. Tripura, he literally burns the 3 invisible residences of the demons into ashes. So there, Mayadanava, he creates a big well, fills it with nectar. And then whichever demon is mortally wounded or even dead, he would just throw their body inside and they'll come out fully invigorated. Demigod side casualty, demon side casualty is always 0. So Lord Shiva, he tries and then he's like, what can I do? No matter whatever damage he inflicts, he keeps on reinvigorating them. And then he prays to Krishna, and then Vishnu takes the form of a cow and Brahma takes the form of a calf. They both go drink the whole nectar and they come out. They empty the well completely. So anyway, so Prabhupada, when he actually explains that, he's saying that demons, it's not that they have everything readily accessible. It's not like that. But they are actually endowed with siddhi, which they also accrue. So in this case, if you see Mayadanava, he fills the whole well with nectar, but as soon as Vishnu comes in the form of a cow, drinks everything, the well becomes empty, he can't bring it again. He has to do tapasya again. So in order to do. So they are also endowed with siddhi, with which they'll be able to go to different planetary systems. Issue comes when they go and take over the planet. That's where the issue comes. But moving, they can actually move. Many references are there, actually. People even from lower planetary system moving, people from higher coming lower. But when they start to conquer, that's when the imbalance gets created.
Are they really higher and lower, or is it only like higher conscious and lower conscious?
You mean the planetary system itself? Yeah, there are physical planetary systems. Yeah, one above the other.
And coming to Gopinath Patnayaka, at the later part yesterday, on one side Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was saying he misappropriated the government money, spends on sinful activities, whereas Kashi Mishra was certifying that he's actually a pure devotee. So these are kind of like two different statements.
If you look at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's statement, I expected that question yesterday. If you look at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's statement, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not pinpointing as Gopinath Pattanayaka per se. His point is, I'm a sannyasi, there is some dealing between one government official and the another due to some misappropriation of funds. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is making a generic statement there. Same reason Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also gives for, I don't want to deal with the kings because they are addicted to money, wine, women, like that. So he rejects Prataparudra. But that comment was not aimed at Prataparudra. Prataparudra was a pure Vaishnava. Same way here, Gopinath Pattanayaka point, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's point here is, I'm a sannyasi, why do you bring all these material affairs to me? That's his point. So he's not saying Gopinath Pattanayaka did it. If you read the contextual meaning in the series of verses, you will actually see that he's not really telling Gopinath Pattanayaka. They are all Nityasiddhas. But they play the role of government officials in this case. Because they are Pandavas, they are still showing the mood of Kshatriya in managing, basically. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's point there is, I'm a sannyasi, why do you bring this to me? That's the point.
And Vadinath Raya, what was his offense like? Is it causing self-inflicting injury? That's why he was actually being remanded?
Vaninath, he read that line.
Because I remember yesterday in the shloka,
He rushes to the place where Gopinath Pattanayaka was going to get punished. That's all.
he was actually chanting because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, what is his fault? And then somebody says that he was continuously chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and for every 1,000 names he was actually marking on his body.
Yeah.
So that was not the reason why he was at
He is not self-inflicting. He's just, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, so he's saying this to demonstrate how much, even in extreme cases, Vaninath Rai, all he is bothered about is simply chanting the holy name of the Lord. This is how he's counteracting. And because he didn't have beads, he was counting on fingers and he's marking. Okay, one round to finish. You know how to count 108, right? Usually when you finish 12, then you hold one here. Then you go again, then again. Instead of that, every time he finishes counting in one hand, he marks. Take a piece of a chalk or something and he's marking.
The last one. I think that's it. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So, Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, Antilila, chapter 9, text 88, chapter title, The Deliverance of Gopinath Pattanayaka. Because, I think because he is mad after sense gratification, the Lord said he acts as a government servant but spends the government's revenue for various sinful activities. The revenue of the government is more sacred than the property of a Brahmana. Prabhupada says, Kshatriyas, they are allowed to exact taxes from everyone except Brahmanas. And Prabhupada is saying, so the members or the Hare Krishna movement should be tax exempted. So, because Brahmanas, they are doing God's work. In one place, they are asking Prabhupada, does Pope go back to Godhead? Prabhupada says, yes. Whoever who is doing God's work, they accrue devotional credit, no matter what. No matter which form of God, Supreme God again, but no matter what religion they follow. Prabhupada says, whoever engaged in God's work, they accrue devotional credit. So, Prabhupada was very clear there. So here it said, the revenue of the government is more sacred than the property of a Brahmana, which means Kshatriyas, they can't exact tax from Brahmana, which means they are exacting tax from other Vaishyas they would do. Mainly, Vaishyas are supposed to serve the other two higher classes, basically, Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. So even though the tax is not collected from Brahmana, whatever tax that is collected, now this is considered more sacred than even the property of a Brahmana. Which means the Lakshmi that is held by the people in other Varnas, that is collected as tax, that is more valuable than the property of a Brahmana, which is tax-free. One who misappropriates the government's money and uses it to enjoy sense gratification is most sinful. One who serves the government but misappropriates the government's revenue is liable to be punished by the king. That is the verdict of all revealed scriptures. A king takes the pious credit, 1/6 of the pious credit of the prajas. King also takes 1/6 of the sins as well of the prajas. So being a king is not easy. If the king doesn't rule the prajas properly, teaching them how to take up to Krishna consciousness, then they'll be short-lived. Because dealing with karma is too difficult. Every sixth person, they are living, every sixth person would actually, if they are sinful, you put them together, that's equivalent of one whole person's sin the king has to take. Likewise, for every 6 persons, he has to keep on accruing the equivalent amount of a sin, total sin committed by one person. So it's very difficult actually to be a king. One who serves the government but misappropriates the government's revenue is liable to be punished by the king. That is the verdict of all revealed scriptures. The king wanted his revenue paid and did not want to enforce punishment. Therefore, the king is certainly very religious. He is just doing his duty. But Gopinath Pattanayaka is a great cheat. He does not pay the revenue to the king, but he wants my help for the release. This is a greatly sinful affair. I cannot tolerate it here. We touched on this point. What Chaitanya Mahaprabhu means here is we have to be very, very careful how we execute our duties, material duties, quote unquote. Radhanath Maharaj says, anything that we do in our life, we should do it as an offering for Krishna, which includes the time you spend in your job, time you spend in your family, time you spend taking care of your health. Body doesn't belong to us, it belongs to Gopinath. We have to take care of it. If you come to temple, if you plan your time properly, there is a beautiful park, St. Leonard's Park, just opposite here. You can go for a walk. Many devotees go for japa walk in the morning. So it's important that we understand everything belongs to Krishna, and we are simply caretakers of this body. And we think this body belongs to us. There are many worms inside our body, and they think this body belongs to them. They think it belongs to them. That's what they are thinking. But actually, it neither belongs to the living organisms inside our body, nor to us. It actually belongs to Krishna. So we have to be careful how we take care of our body. He does not pay the revenue to the king, but he wants my help for release. This is a greatly sinful affair. I cannot tolerate it here. Therefore, I shall leave Jagannath Puri and go to Alalnatha, where I shall live peacefully and not hear about all these affairs of materialistic people. So Kashi Mishra is narrating what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had told him to Prataparudra, who is the king. When King Prataparudra heard all these details, he felt great pain in his mind. I shall give up all that is due from Gopinath Pattanayaka. He said, if Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will stay here at Jagannath Puri. If even for a moment I could get an interview with Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I would not care for the profit of millions of Chintamani stones. So this is the consciousness of Prataparudra. I do not care about the small sum of 200,000 kahanas. What to speak of this? I would indeed sacrifice everything at the lotus feet of the Lord, including my life and kingdom. Same mood demonstrated by the fruit vendor lady. You will see the fruit vendor lady who goes selling fruits, exchanging it for grains. She gives it to baby Krishna. Baby Krishna exchanges it for few grains. Even though Krishna didn't give much, she fills up Krishna's hands with all these beautiful vegetables. Have you seen the artwork? Mango. Krishna is holding banana, apple. And Krishna is very busy holding all of them. And then he goes in. But we study the pastime that as soon as she gave everything to Krishna, then her whole basket became filled with jewels. And then she runs to the forest, throws away the jewels, and then she picks up more fruits. Because for her, jewelry is not so important. The valuable stones is not so important. For her, even a momentary association with Krishna, that beautiful darling of Yashodamaya and Nanda Baba, him walking towards her, innocently trying to hold a few grains in his hand. For her, that's the most greatest gift. And she wanted to experience that again and again. So she keeps coming again and again. Pastime happens eternally. So here, King Prataparudra is also showing the same mood. Kashi Mishra hinted to the king, it is not the Lord's desire that you forfeit the payment. He is unhappy only because the whole family is troubled. The king replied, I had no desire to give pain to Gopinath Pattanayaka and his family, nor did I know about his being lifted on the changa to be thrown on the swords and killed. He sneered at Purushottama Jana. Therefore the prince tried to scare him as a punishment. Go personally to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and keep him at Jagannath Puri with great attention. I shall excuse Gopinath Pattanayaka from all his debts. So he is relieving him. He doesn't have to pay any debts. Kashi Mishra said, excusing Gopinath Pattanayaka of all his debts will make the Lord unhappy, for that is not his intention. He is repeatedly saying. Generally, Prabhupada actually explains that whatever money that is collected as tax is not king's property, it's people's property. So they have a separate treasury where they keep all the tax money. But whatever wealth that the king receives as his gifts, he has his own personal treasury. That he is allowed to give in charity. He can't take the tax money and give in charity. That's misappropriation of funds. So that he is not allowed. Now because the Lakshmi here that's collected is more valuable, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying more valuable than even the property of Brahmana, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants to make sure that the Lakshmi is actually collected properly and spent properly for the people. Bhavananda Roy is worthy of my worship and respect. Therefore, I am naturally affectionate to his sons. After offering obeisances to Kashi Mishra, the king returned to his palace and called for both Gopinatha and the eldest prince. The king told Gopinath Pattanayaka, you are excused for all the money you owed the treasury, and the place known as Malachadya Dandapata is again given to you for collections. He is reinstating him back in the role. Do not again misappropriate the revenue of the government. In case you think your salary is insufficient, henceforward it will be doubled. Look at how he is getting reciprocated. After saying this, the king appointed by offering him a silken wrapper for his body. Go to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, after taking permission from him, go to your home. I bid you farewell. Now you may go. By the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one can certainly become spiritually advanced. Indeed, no one can estimate the results of his mercy. Gopinath Pattanayaka achieved the result of kingly opulence due to but a glimpse of the Lord's mercy. Therefore, no one can calculate the full value of his mercy. Gopinath Pattanayaka was lifted on to the changa to be killed, and all his money was taken away. But instead, so this is the case that was brought before the king, is he misappropriated the funds. He defaulted in his submission of the tax that he actually collected from the people. And because of that, he was on the verge of getting capital punishment. So this is where his position is. But due to mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what happened? All his debts were cleared. He was reinstated in his position. The money that was taken from him was given back. He was selling his horses. That was given back to him. Not only that, his salary is doubled. This is all due to the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. On one hand, Gopinath Pattanayaka was unable to clear his debt even by selling all his possessions. But on the other, his salary was doubled and he was honored with a silken wrapper. It was not the desire of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Gopinath Pattanayaka be excused of his debt to the government, nor was it his desire that his salary be doubled or that he be reappointed collector at the same place. When Gopinath Pattanayaka's servant went to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and informed the Lord of his plight, the Lord was somewhat agitated and dissatisfied. The Lord had no intention of awarding his devotee the happiness of material opulence. Yet, simply because of his being informed, such a great result was obtained. Very important. Many times we may come and offer prayers and we may not realize how much our prayers are actually being heard and how prayers are being answered. We won't realize at all. But here, listen to what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is saying. Gopinath Pattanayaka was in the process of getting punished. His servant runs to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and tells something to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because of that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's little disturbed at heart, because his devotee had to go through that. That's all. Simply because he went and informed and it caused some disturbance in the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you look at the result. Actually, the Lord had no intention of awarding him material opulence. But even in this case, when he is disturbed, oh my devotee, that's all he felt. And that was enough to reverse the whole situation positively. So, how much more will Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu be pleased if we take up to the process of Krishna consciousness and we try sincerely? I was reading in a Bhagavatam purport today, Prabhupada is saying that there will never be any dearth of resources or material opulences for spreading this Hare Krishna movement. Prabhupada is saying all that is needed is some sincere effort from our side. If we do it sincerely, Krishna will give everything. We don't need to bother. So here the Lord, even though he had no intention of awarding his devotee the happiness of material opulence, yet simply because of his being informed. That's why it's very important that we always come and do Guhya Makati Prichati with Shri Radha Gopinath. We have to come and we have to share with them everything. Simply informing is enough. There is a Bible story. Once a son of a Roman general, he is on his deathbed because very young son. So the general, he understands that Jesus is the Messiah, so he tries to search him. Finally, he finds him after 2 days, 3 days actually. And then he goes to him and he tells him, my son is about to leave his body. I heard that you have resurrected people from the dead. Can you please come and do something? Then Jesus Christ says like, yeah, sure. You go home. That's all he says. And the general turns. And as he is walking towards his horse, towards his group of army men, at that time Jesus turns towards his disciples and he says, you look at this man, I just told him that you go home. I didn't tell him that whether I'm going to come with him, whether his son will be cured. I just told him go home and he's going. Then he stops the general and he asks, on what basis are you going? Then the Roman general says, I'm an army general. You see these men, they work under me. If I give them an instruction, if I tell them to do something, I take it that they will do. I don't need to go and follow up. Same way, when I came to you and asked for help, you said, okay, you go home. That means I take it that my prayer is already answered. So you will see in many instances, simply to go and true to his faith, by the time he returns home, his son is already up from the deathbed. So you will see in many instances, we go through difficulties. Material world means difficulties only. Prabhupada says in one place, what's the use of extending this life if you are going to be old and you are going to just keep on doing sinful activities? Ayur harati vaipumsam udyanastam chayanyasho tasyarte chananita uttama shloka vartaya. It's given. At the sunrise and sunset, everyone's life is reduced except those who is engaged in hearing and chanting the holy name and glories of the Supreme Lord. So here, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is saying that simply because the servant informed the Lord of a difficulty of his master, in this case, the difficulty of Gopinath Pattanayaka. Gopinath Pattanayaka got material opulence. So, it's very important that whether we are happy or sad materially, or whether we are happy spiritually, we should always come in front of Sri Radha Gopinath and we have to express our heart. If we are happy, we should tell them, my Lord, because of your mercy, I am very happy. If you are sad, we should tell them, my Lord, I know you don't want to be sad, you don't want me to be sad, but because of my material attachment, I am feeling little sad. Please remove this. Immediately he'll remove. Gopinath doesn't have to do much. One beautiful smile, everything is gone. Immediately it will be gone. We don't need to bother. So it's extremely important that we keep informing the Supreme Lord about everything. Any difficulties we face, challenges we face, we don't need to try to impress the Supreme Lord. We can never impress the Supreme Lord. Halfway through you telling him the lie, Krishna will be like, are you sure? You know? No. How many of you have tried lying to the Lord? Sometimes. You don't intend to, but you're so accustomed to doing it, when it comes, he just goes, sorry Lord, that's not what I meant, that's my mind. You know, please. We like to tell the Lord what we believe is true many times, but actually it's not. So then we have to be honest, at least with the Supreme Lord. And then you don't need to be diplomatic, you can be straightforward with the Supreme Lord. And simply because we inform the Supreme Lord, He will fix everything. Prabhupada says, Supreme Lord, Krishna Balram, they can fix anything because they don't have any problem. Demigods, they have problem, so they will never be able to fix the problem. Prabhupada says, only somebody who has no problem, they'll be able to fix our problem. Otherwise, they'll be too busy worrying about theirs, correct? So, it's important that we always inform. I'll read this. Please hear carefully. The Lord had no intention of awarding His devotee the happiness of material opulence, yet simply because of his being informed. Underline the word informed, which means somebody is going and informing the Lord, my Lord, this is the plight of your devotee. That much if you do, such a great result was obtained. We will also get great result, materially and spiritually. So it's important that we always inform the Supreme Lord through our prayers. No one can estimate the wonderful characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva cannot understand the intentions of the Lord. Kashi Mishra went to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Brahma Rudradi Mohanam. Srila Rupa Goswami says, Krishna can put Lord Brahma into illusion, he can put Lord Shiva also into illusion. So even they cannot understand the intentions of the Lord. Kashi Mishra went to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and informed him in detail of all the king's intentions. Upon hearing about Kashi Mishra's tactics with the king, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Kashi Mishra, what have you done? You have made me indirectly take help from the king. Kashi Mishra said, my dear Lord, the king has done this without reservations. Kindly hear his statement. The king said, speak to the Lord in such a way that he will not think, for my sake, the king has forfeited 200,000 kahanas of kaudis. Inform Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that all the sons of Bhavananda Roy are especially dear to me. I consider them like members of my family. Therefore, I have appointed them collectors in various places, and although they spend the government's money, eat, drink, plunder and distribute it as they like, I do not take them very seriously. I made Ramananda Roy the governor of Raja Mahendri. There is practically no account of whatever money he took and distributed in that position. Now we should not mistake that all the sons of Bhavananda Roy, they were eating, drinking, making merry. That's not what it meant. I'll read text 122 so you understand the context here. I made Ramananda Roy the governor of Raj Mahendri. There is practically no account of whatever money he took and distributed in that position. Meaning, he is not doubting the position of Ramananda Roy. He is not even telling Ramananda Roy was misappropriating money, nothing like that. All he is saying is, He's saying, my Lord, I'm the king here, just like I have my eldest prince, Purushottam Jana. This is my wealth, he's just taking and spending. Like that, I consider them members of my family. I don't even keep account of whatever the money they collect, how they spend it. In that context, he's saying. Do you understand? So, it's not that he's making these accusations on all the members. He's saying they are so much like my family members, so much so, I didn't even bother counting how much they collected, how much they are keeping, how they are spending. Nothing, because they are my family members. So that's what King Prataparudra is saying. Having been appointed collector, Gopinatha in the same way also generally spends 200,000 to 400,000 kahanas as he likes. Now, how exactly, that he is not commenting on. He is saying all this to say that they are just like my family members. Gopinath Pattanayaka would collect some and pay some, spending it at will. But I would not consider this very seriously. This time, however, he was put into trouble because of a misunderstanding with the prince. So that's the issue here. The prince created the situation without my knowledge, but actually I consider all the sons of Bhavananda Roy to be like my relatives. Because of my intimate relationship with them, I have absolved Gopinath Pattanayaka of all his debts. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does not know this fact. Whatever I have done is because of my intimate relationship with the family of Bhavananda Roy. Having heard from Kashi Mishra all these statements concerning the king's mentality, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy. So here you can think, you can understand how much devotees understand, the close associates. Just now we read, Shiva doesn't understand, Brahma doesn't understand. But here, Prataparudra understanding about the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is telling beforehand. He is presenting his favoring Gopinath Pattanayaka in a way that will appeal to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is happy with that. So you'll see many instances like that. Even when Gopas, when they go to a place after playing, they tell to Krishna and Balaram, they look at Krishna and Balaram, they want to serve Krishna and Balaram, but they know if they go to Krishna and Balaram and tell Krishna and Balaram, we would like to serve you, Krishna Balaram wouldn't want to take any service from them because they know it's going to be difficult here. So instead of going to them and telling them, Krishna Balaram, we would like to serve you, they go in front of them and they say to Krishna Balaram, we are feeling hungry. Then Krishna Balaram they give permission. Okay, you can go. And that's when the whole pastime of Dvija Brahmanas or Dvija Patnis happen. Then they go asking for charity, boga from the Brahmanas who are busy in doing homa. They say like, no, go away. Then they come back to Krishna Balaram and Krishna gives them advice for all book distributors especially and fundraisers. You know, this is the nature of asking for charity. Some place you will get a lot even without asking. Some place even with you asking for whole day you won't get anything. Anyway, you can go through the back door, and meet my devotees. The Patnis, Dvija Patnis, the wives of the Brahmanas. And then they go, and then the wives of the Brahmanas, they immediately bring all the boga and offer it to Krishna Balaram. So here also you see the Gopas, they understand the mood of Krishna Balaram. So same way here, Prataparudra understands, Kashi Mishra also understands. Because they know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very strict in his sannyas dharma. He wouldn't want himself to be in a position where he thinks he has indirectly taken help from someone. So because of that, here Prataparudra is saying, I did all this favor because they were all my family members who happened to be your devotees. That's what he's saying. But actually he did it for both the reasons. But this is what Prataparudra is saying. Gopinath Pattanayaka, where did we? Because of my intimate relationship with them, I have absolved Gopinath Pattanayaka of all his debts. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does not know this fact. Whatever I have done is because of my intimate relationship with the family of Bhavananda Raya. Having heard from Kashi Mishra all these statements concerning the king's mentality, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy. At that time, Bhavananda Raya arrived there. Bhavananda Raya, along with his 5 sons, fell at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who lifted him up and embraced him. Thus, Ramananda Roy, all his brothers and their father met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then Bhavananda Roy began speaking. All these members of my family, he said, are your eternal servants. You have saved us from this great danger. Therefore, you have purchased us for a proper price. Yudhishthir Maharaj, when he actually takes instructions from Narada Muni starts glorifying Prahlad Maharaj. And he narrates about the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj, he narrates about the prayers, and he says, of all the 12 Mahajans, Prahlad Maharaj is the best example. This is the statement of Lord Narasimhadev himself. So he is very fortunate. As he is narrating, Yudhishthir Maharaj is hearing this. And Yudhishthir Maharaj is thinking, wow, he is so fortunate. So naturally, a devotee would like to be fortunate themselves also. So Yudhishthir Maharaj, he is not actually thinking he is not fortunate, but he is simply thinking, Prahlad Maharaj is so fortunate, like that. Narada Muni, immediately he brings the attention back to Yudhishthir Maharaj and he says, Yudhishthir Maharaj, for Prahlad Maharaj, Narasimhadev came once. But Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, he is there with you always. And that's the reason you find sages from all the 14 planetary systems coming to your home again and again and again. You are in such a fortunate position. So, Pandavas are always blessed with the association of Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, 24/7. So, Krishna was their relative, Krishna was their family member, Krishna was their friend. And he was always with them. So, that's what here Bhavananda Rai is saying, who is Maharaj Pandu. All these members of my family, he said, are your eternal servants. You have saved us from this great danger, therefore you have purchased us for a proper price. You have now demonstrated your love for your devotees, just as when you previously saved the 5 Pandavas from great danger. These eternal associates, when they are in Gaur Leela, it's mentioned, many of them, they don't even know what their position is in Vraja Leela. But they demonstrate the qualities of that. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to reveal to them, hey, by the way, you are Prahlad Maharaj. So here he is saying, you have demonstrated now your love for your devotees, just as when you previously saved the 5 Pandavas from the great danger. That 5 Pandavas only his 5 sons now. But he is saying like that. Gopinath Pattanayaka, his head covered with the silken wrapper. He is the culprit here, according to this pastime, right? But he has got nice silk cloth tied on his head. Gopinath Pattanayaka, his head covered with the silken wrapper, fell at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and described in detail the king's mercy toward him. The king has excused me for the balance due. He said, he has reappointed me to my post by honoring me with the silken cloth and has doubled my salary. I was lifted upon the Changa to be killed, but instead I was honored with this silken cloth. This is all your mercy. On the Changa, I began meditating upon your lotus feet, and the power of that remembrance has yielded all these results. Struck with wonder by my affairs, the populace is glorifying the greatness of your mercy. Vaninath Raya also was simply chanting the holy name. Gopinath Pattanayak also here, now he is revealing. What is he saying? I began meditating upon your lotus feet, and the power of that remembrance has yielded all these results. However, my Lord, these are not the principal results of meditating upon your lotus feet. Now he is revealing the feelings of his inner core. Material opulence is very flickering. Therefore, it is simply a glimpse of the result of your mercy. Prabhupada actually mentions the story of Ramadas. If you go to Bhadrachalam in Andhra, Prabhupada actually narrates this in one Bhagavatam class. He was also like a tax collector of a big province. So there he sees a temple of Lord Ram, Sita, Lakshman, Hanuman. It's there, but it didn't have proper facility. It was, their lordships were worshipped in a very, very small hut with very bare minimum facilities, especially in extreme weather. The devotees couldn't take care of them properly. So whatever tax he collects, he directs it towards the construction of the temple. The temple he constructed is still there. Beautiful temple. But then the king, he comes to know that he has redirected all the funds. Instead of giving it to the treasury, he has used it for building the temple. So the king puts him in jail. So if you read the songs that he actually writes, the songs actually reflect the mood. He actually himself writes in the song about what offerings he made to the Supreme Lord, what kind of punishment he is getting, his whole bhava you will see. And you can see the relationship he has with the Supreme Lord. But Prabhupada explains that after some time, in one song he actually sings, my Lord, the golden jewelry I gave you, the one I gave you, the one I gave to Lakshman, the precious stone jewel I actually gave to Mother Sita, none of this is given by your father-in-law Dasharatha, so by your father Dasharatha or your father-in-law Janaka. It was me. You are being nicely adorned by that, but look at me, I am in the jail being punished. He sings like that, very sweet pastimes between devotee. And then Prabhupada actually narrates this in the class. And then so Ram and Lakshman, they come in disguise as humans. And they come and they come in the dream of the king and they tell him that whatever money that Ramadas he owes, we are here to repay it back to you. So you please take this, count every cent of it, and then release him. And then the king wakes up thinking that this is just a dream. But actually true to his dream, he actually sees a pile of gold coins right in front of him. And then the king goes and releases him. So Prabhupada says this and laughs. So because the devotee took debt on behalf of the Supreme Lord has to pay off the debt. Prabhupada says like that. So you will see this mood demonstrated by devotees. How the only thing which they consider again and again is simply pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So here Gopinath Pattanayaka, he is clearly saying, therefore material opulence is very flickering. Therefore it is simply a glimpse of the result of your mercy. So even Gopinath Pattanayaka is not so much bothered about money, so much bothered about anything else. He is simply worried about what is pleasing, or he is simply focused on what is pleasing the Supreme Lord. Your real mercy has been granted to Ramananda Roy and Vaninath Raya, for you have detached them from all material opulence. I think that I have not been favored by such mercy. Now, this is his real mood. Two of his brothers, they are already full-time devotees. Ramananda Roy and Vaninath Roy. However, Gopinath Pattanayaka, he still has to work. So he is saying, kindly bestow upon me your pure mercy so that I may also become renounced. I am no longer interested in material enjoyment. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, if you all adopt the renounced order and lose interest in dealing with pounds, shillings and pence, who will take charge of maintaining your large family? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is discouraging him from renouncing. Whether you are involved in material activities or become completely renounced, you 5 brothers are all my eternal servants birth after birth. However, just obey one order from me. Do not spend any of the king's revenue. First, you should pay the revenue due the king, and then you may spend the balance for religious and fruitive activities. Do not spend a farthing for sinful activities, for which you will be the loser both in this life and the next. After saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bade them farewell. Now, again, this doesn't mean that Gopinath Pattanayaka is engaged in all of this. Through them, just like through Arjuna, Krishna is preaching. Through these 5 brothers, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is preaching to the whole world. Thus the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was spoken of in the family of Bhavananda Roy. That mercy was clearly demonstrated, although it appeared to be something different. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced them all and bade them farewell. Then all the devotees got up and left, loudly chanting the holy name of Hari. Seeing the extraordinary mercy the Lord granted to the family of Bhavananda Roy, everyone was struck with wonder. They could not understand the behavior of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Indeed, when all the devotees had requested the Lord to bestow his mercy upon Gopinath Pattanayaka, the Lord had replied that he could do nothing. I have simply described the chastisement of Gopinath Pattanayaka and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's indifference. It's again external. But the deep meaning of this behavior is very difficult to understand. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave so much to Gopinath Pattanayaka without directly making requests of either Kashi Mishra or the king. The intentions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are so deep that one can understand them only if he has complete faith in service to the lotus feet of the Lord. Whether or not one understands it, if one hears of this incident concerning the activities of Gopinath Pattanayaka and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's causeless mercy upon him, certainly he will be promoted to the platform of the ecstatic love for the Lord, and for him all the dangers will be nullified. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki Jai. Sri Rupa Raghunatha Padayarasha Caitanya Caritamrta Kahe Krishna Dasa, praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunatha, always desiring their mercy. I, Krishna Dasa, narrate Sri Caitanya Caritamrta following in their footsteps. I'll read the Falastuti again. Whether or not one understands it, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj knows about us, even if he had slept in the class. Whether or not one understands it, if one hears of this incident concerning the activities of Gopinath Pattanayaka and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's causeless mercy upon him, certainly he will be promoted to the platform of ecstatic love for the Lord, and for him all dangers will be nullified. Jai. What a blessing. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, Prabhu.
Just on the last couple of things you're saying, I know you did mention that the fruitive activities which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is referring to is referring in general and not directed at Gopinath Pattanayaka. So, but not only this, in one of the earlier shlokas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu directly says that you are involved in sinful activities and even dancing with women, something like that, he said one of the shlokas. So that's actually a direct reference.
It's not a direct reference. It is in reference to he is a sannyasi. I'm not going to deal with someone. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is making a generic statement as much as he made about King Prataparudra when he was declining audience of the king, saying, King, they are usually attached to money, wine and women. I don't want to meet them. But actually King Prataparudra was not like that. He was a Vaishnava. But that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood. If you read the purport there, Prabhupada actually explains, here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains that one should not be overly eager to associate with materially opulent people, because that association is not conducive for their Krishna consciousness. So in that sense, here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying there is some misappropriation of fund, or at least that's the perspective of one party, and there is some dealings there, and they are bringing it to a sannyasi. So on that platform, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, okay, somebody may be a governor, but no. But the real mood of Gopinath Pattanayaka is there clearly given. He is saying, money is flickering. You have already relieved my two brothers. When will that day come? When I will also be relieved so I can engage in your service. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is declining, saying, if everyone take renounced order, who will maintain your large family? You better continue with your job. That's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying here. So that's the proper mood. But here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just like how he put Yudhishthir Maharaj through a pastime to speak Bhagavad Gita, he put Parikshit Maharaj through a Leela, through which he can actually speak Srimad Bhagavatam through Shukadeva Goswami. Same way, in this particular pastime, there are a lot of lessons we can actually learn from this. One of that is the tax which the government actually exacts from the citizens is more valuable than Brahmana. One should actually execute one's material duties properly. One should not be materially attached, engaged in fruitive activities. Irrespective of whatever position one is in, one should still take to the shelter of chanting the holy name of the Lord. And in the process, he is also teaching how Gopinath Pattanayaka, who seemingly was actually portrayed as a, or at least understood as a materialistic person, was actually, even he himself is testifying, he is simply closing his eyes and meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord. And imagine if he had died at that point, he would have gone back. He is anyway eternal servant of the Lord. So that's the lesson we should take it from here. Literal meaning, that was one point we were discussing this morning. When sometimes you will see one particular pastime, and this is just in relation to this morning discussion in the class by Partha Prabhu. Like, you will come across some pastime where one Acharya says something. Like today's verse, for example, one of the words which Hiranyaksha used to blaspheme Varahadev is, he says, Agya, who is this foolish beast? But then Sridhar Swami, he interprets Agya. Gya means to know, Agya means one who has no knowledge. But he interprets it using the Sanskrit grammar. The word Agya refers to he for whom nothing is unknown. Now, on one hand, we come across words like this where, it's actually being, on one hand we are taught that we have to take literal meaning. We say Bhagavad Gita as it is, correct? There we chastise Mayavadis because they are misinterpreting, correct? But here, Vaishnava Acharyas are doing the same thing. Here we are glorifying, correct? There is some inconsistency here. Are we supposed to take it as it is, or are we supposed to actually interpret it? Like how different Acharyas are doing. The answer to that question is, every Shastra, they have Paribhasha Sutra, you will come across. Ete chamsa kalapumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridenti Yuge Yuge. You will come across like that. Now every verse in the entire 18,000 verses in Srimad Bhagavatam, you are supposed to understand based on this particular verse. Which means your understanding, your interpretation of any other verse has to be true, keeping the truth, the veracity of this particular verse. Which means Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And here you come across one incarnation of Krishna who is being blasphemed as Agya. Which means it can't be true. Why? If this is true, then the Paribhasha Sutra will go wrong. Do you understand? Krishna can't be the Supreme Lord. But if you want to keep Paribhasha Sutra, truth of that intact, then you have to understand this verse in light of that one only. Which means Agya means, then it has to be, it cannot be direct meaning. Okay, you have to go for implied meaning. So that is how you see whether somebody who belongs to this sampradaya or that sampradaya doesn't matter. What matters here is, when it comes to understanding, they have to follow the parampara here who goes with this interpretation, which is any interpretation, anything you give. Now keeping this verse intact, you can understand, come up with unlimited meanings. That's how Caitanya Mahaprabhu comes up with 64 explanations you will come across. 61 explanations you will come across of Atmarama. So it can be interpreted by different acharyas differently. They can give their insight. But the lifeline of all of that, the common thread of all of that, or rather the focal point of all of that should be to keep Paribhasha Sutra intact. So you cannot actually understand any other verse compromising on this meaning. As long as the meaning of this verse is kept intact, yes, now any other interpretation that's actually given in the line of parampara can be accepted. So here also, Pandavas Nitya Siddha. Period. Nitya Siddha means jivas who don't do any mistakes. That's Nitya Siddha. So then we have to take implied meaning only here. Pandavas can never do wrong. Prabhupada says, there is 3 types of Siddha: Sadhana Siddha, Kripa Siddha and Nitya Siddha. Nitya Siddha are devotees who never fall down. And you come across sadhana siddhas also, devotees or people who have attained perfection by devotional practice, sadhana. And you will come across kripa siddha also, like Ajamil, who attained perfection by mercy. Of course, mercy first and then he has to still do his sadhana in Haridwar. What is Prahlad Maharaj's position? Let me take a step back. What is Narada Muni's position? Is he a Nitya Siddha or is he a Sadhana Siddha? Okay, I take that. Any other answers? Let's chant one Hare Krishna Mahamantra for Mikey Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada says both. Prabhupada says he is a mixed siddha. Mixed siddha means he is sadhana, he attained that position based on his previous life, Narada boy pastime, Prabhupada says. But then he is eternally also engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada says he is Nitya Siddha as well as Sadhana Siddha. Prahlad Maharaj, what is his position? Is he Nitya Siddha or is he Sadhana Siddha? Okay, I take that. Okay, now what do you feel? Prahlad Maharaj is also, Prabhupada says, mixed. He is Sadhana Siddha as well as he is Nitya Siddha. Sadhana Siddha because he was in the womb of Kayadu and he is taking instruction from Narada Muni. And he attained perfection that way also. But then he is eternal servant of the Supreme Lord also. Prabhupada says like that. Whereas Pandavas, if you take, Pandavas' position is Nitya Siddha. They didn't have to do any sadhana. So there is no question of them doing any mistake. That's why when it comes to Pandavas or when it comes to even Parishit Maharaj, Acharyas safely blame Krishna. You know, Krishna is the one who made him wrap the dead snake, around the rishi like that. Because Parishit Maharaj is a Mahabhagavat. Even before birth, he was like fully perfected soul. So he can never do mistake. Okay, so Pandavas, when we come across this, we have to take it that just like how Krishna wanted to teach the whole world the effect of gambling match. I shared this before. I read one caricature where it said, Hare Krishnas never gamble. Last time they gambled, it ended up in Kurukshetra war. Like that. So to teach people about the effects of gambling, Krishna engaged the Leela of gambling match through Yudhishthira Maharaj. That doesn't mean Yudhishthira Maharaj is addicted to gambling. Okay, so same way, we have to take through these pastimes, Krishna is actually teaching the whole world how one should never be materially attached and how even in the midst of such adversity, one should take shelter of the Supreme Lord. Okay. Or it can also be that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj didn't put everything here during that conversation. There is always a contextual meaning. Like as I said, when Narada Muni is actually speaking to Yudhishthira Maharaj didn't say anything. He's just thinking that, wow, Prahlad Maharaj is so fortunate. That's all he's thinking. Narada Muni could immediately sense it. It's a non-verbal communication. And he's telling, by the way, Yudhishthira Maharaj, you are much more fortunate. Supreme Lord is a resident of your own home. So same way, here, he is mentioning about some conversation here. Where is it mentioned that this is the transcript of the whole conversation here?
In the sense that he actually, King Prataprutra clearly says that it's because of my affection. His whole intention, as we can probably understand it, his whole idea is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu should stay in Nilachala, should not go to Alanka. That's how I understood.
Both are true. That is true. Plus, he treats the family of Bhavananda Rai as his own family members. And he's giving proof there. He didn't even bother counting how much they collected, how they spent, anything. Both are true. We'll stop there. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. Shri Shri Gauranitai ki jai. Samaveda Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Sri Caitanya Caritamrta ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath's devotees ki jai. Devotees in Mayapur TV, YouTube and Facebook ki jai. Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.